Vinny is working outside while you hold his hand every time I come out here. We split everything up. We began yesterday. For once, get your hands dirty. Instead of watching other people iron and grind, do it yourself. Every bite that needs to be built is. Everyone is working all the time. What do you know? 10 years. We have had to deal with things like this for 10 years. After making Orange County Choppers a huge hit on TV, Paul Teutul Jr. lost everything in a terrible family fight. His father told him he owed him $1.5 million. His brother had to pick a side. But there was a time when you and your dad stopped being close. I mean, he fired you. Yes, he did. It was really hard at the time. But now I see it was the best thing that could have happened. And when Paul had his own kids, he saw how much their famous fight had really cost. As a result of having my own son, I've learned to accept and understand my own father even more. Today, the man who made some of the most famous bikes in America tells the painful truth about why he hasn't eaten Thanksgiving dinner with his father in 15 years. Around the middle of the 1980s, most kids were either riding bikes, watching shows, or playing Nintendo. Paul Teutul Jr., on the other hand, thought fun was very different. He worked at Orange County Iron Works when he was only 12 years old, where it was hot and noisy. Other kids were at the beach, but Paul was cleaning up metal shavings from the workshop floors and giving grown men tools to help them weld steel. He would go to his dad's job site and play with scrap metal like it was a toy long before that. He would arrange them into small statues, making art out of things other people would have thought were junk. What they saw early on changed everything. When Paul was 14, he could already weld with such calm accuracy that even the more experienced guys looked up to him. He learned more than just how to do things. He also learned how to think like a maker. Things weren't always bright and shiny in the shop, though. Paul Sr., his dad, was known for being very strict. He was tough on his son. He was often tougher on him than on anyone else. Junior made too many mistakes to get away with them. He would be yelled at in front of everyone if something went wrong. A few people thought it was unfair, but Senior thought it would make him stronger. They became more and more at odds with each other over the years. I also believe the show caused a great deal of harm to the family. Paul Sr. liked rough strength and doing things the old-fashioned way. Paul Jr. was more interested in art and liked things with clean lines and fine details. Jr. changed the way a fence looked and was built one summer to make it stronger and better. His dad didn't like it at first, but a few days later, he agreed and used the design without saying a word. That moment said everything. There was respect there deep down, but there was a tug of war all the time. Most of his peers were studying hard for math tests, but Paul Jr. chose to do something else. He signed up for a program that let him learn metals during the school day. He learned how to read blueprints, how to weld, and how to find the stress places in steel. One of his teachers told him he had a special talent because he could tell before he touched metal how it wanted to move. Junior practiced every weld and cut for hours after class until it felt natural. He knew he could do well even without a fancy degree. He only had to get better at what he did. He wasn't a kid cleaning floors when he went back to his dad's shop after high school. He was a skilled tailor who talked like a pro and showed what he said with results. Paul Jr. was in charge of the railing section at Orange County Iron Works by the age of 19. That's a big job. It brought in almost half of the company's money. Most people would think it was because of family ties, but Jr. really earned it. He gave them more style choices and brought the shop up to date. People were ready to pay more and wait longer just to get something he made because his designs were so famous. He was also in charge of a group of workers who were a lot older than him. Some of them had been in war, and some were skeptical at first. Over time, though, even the meanest ones came around and said he knew what he was doing. What are you thinking? Have you thought about using an Indian? He turned a metal shop into a place that people talked about. You have to work hard to earn that kind of respect. But there was still something missing. Junior felt trapped after years of making stairs and railings. It was important to him to make something that moved and had life. He lit that spark when, after a long day at work, he started drawing motorbikes in an old notebook without anyone knowing. Around that time, his dad also started riding bikes again. It began jokingly. He asked Junior to help him make one. He was shocked, though, when he saw what his son had drawn. It was more than just technical. Senior looked at his son that day and said, "Let's build bikes for real. Not for fun, but as a business." It was about more than just bikes. The goal was to fix something much bigger. The many years that had passed between them. They turned their family's ironworks business into a small business and used the money to start Orange County Choppers. But it wasn't fair. Senior got 80% back. Junior got 20%. It wasn't important yet. They only had a dream and a bunch of tools in a cold basement. But after a few months, people started to notice the bikes they made. It took them 4 long months to make their first one, True Blue. Welding all night, late nights, and blue paint with white flames. A big-time builder's garage didn't look like the place where it came from. People were shocked when they brought it to Daytona in 1999. They were no longer unknown, but it wasn't easy for them to be successful. In 2000, they were making bikes in a small, cold shop. Many of the sellers wanted cash up front, and we ran out of money very quickly. To stay on schedule, Paul Jr. often worked 18-hour days and slept on a couch in the shop. They yelled at each other all the time, not for fun, but to stay alive. Every bike they sold only made enough to pay their costs, but they kept going because they couldn't stop. Then there was a call in 2002. A magazine story about their bikes caught the attention of a TV director named Craig Peligian. He looked around for a new TV show. Paul Sr. answered the phone when he called and barked, "What the hell do you want?" A director pitched a show about fixing up bikes that people find in junkyards. "Sir, turn it off right away." He said, "We build them from scratch." The deal almost didn't happen. But after a few weeks, the producer had a better idea. Show the real process on film with all the arguments. Paul Jr. didn't like the idea. He was afraid that the cameras would make everything worse. In a 5-page letter to his dad, he said, "They'll make us look like fools." It was rude to sign the deal. $5,000 an episode, a lot of camera retakes, and lights that were so bright they made their welds fail. At one point, the show's makers thought of the name Family Friction. Paul Jr. almost walked away, but they had to sign for the money. No one knew what would happen after the March 31st, 2003 launch of American Chopper. It blew up in just 3 shows. Every week, more than 3 million people watched. They were no longer just bike builders all of a sudden. They were great. People from all over came to see their little shop. Items flew off the shelves. That first season alone brought in $13 million for Discovery Channel. To keep up, the two Tulls had to move into a huge $12 million building. At first, people were interested in Paul Sr. because of his bad mood. But Paul Jr. was the one who kept an eye on them. Fans did not care about the trouble. They loved seeing him get stronger. Jr.'s ideas were like magic. They were quiet, focused, and exact. In fact, a scene of him building a gas tank with no words or music was one of the most watched videos ever. More people signed up for welding schools across America. The Poly effect was the name for it. Then the Black Widow came along and changed everything. It wasn't just a bike. It was a sentence. A spiderweb gas tank, handmade wheels, and 167 hours of hard work. It was shown for the first time in New York, where 15,000 people crowded in to see it. Police had to keep the crowd in check. They soon sold everything from model kits to clothes to video games. In 6 months, more than 280,000 model kits were bought. It turned OCC into a brand, not just a store. The Fire bike wasn't just another chopper when Paul Jr. finished building it in June 2003. It was a big moment in his career. He was making more than just a bike. An honor to the fireman who died on September 11th, 2001. He was building it. And that meant that each part of the bike had to have a message. A real piece of steel was one of the most powerful elements. From where the World Trade Center used to be. That wasn't given to someone else by Paul. He put it on himself with weld. He made a diamond plate bracket just for this bike and connected the sharp piece of metal to it. That was the last and most moving piece. But that wasn't the only trick. He had to completely rethink the bike's frame because the plan was so big. It had to hold 343 hand-painted symbols, one for each fireman who died. It took a lot of tech to handle that much weight, both literally and figuratively. The next year, when the bike crashed, the New York Fire Department didn't handle it like any other crash. They came right away and carefully picked up the broken bike as if it were a fallen friend. That's how important it was. It's still in the OCC Museum. It's been to more than 248 events. People still go there, cry, and leave memories and personal notes next to it. Years later, Paul Jr. would work on another project, a second tribute bike, that would bring back the pain and power of 9/11. When this one was shown off on January 20th, 2011, it got a huge response. People from all walks of life came. It drew together people like Michael Bloomberg, the mayor of New York, and the head of the 9/11 Memorial. A board member of the memorial named Daniel R. Tishman asked Paul to build something that people would remember. Also, he brought not one but 2 bikes. One stayed as a gift. The other one was given away as a giveaway to help the memorial's fund. For those who bought passes in person or online, the whole amount of money went to help the 9/11 Museum. People cried that day when the bike's cover came off. Men of all ages, couples, and tourists. The emotional weight of what that machine stood for hit everyone. The picture told a story without saying anything. The word got out to people who couldn't be there because the Huffington Post wrote a whole story about it. The flashy paint and chrome were nice, but what was really amazing was his technical mind. Paul Jr. did more than just make bikes look good. In 2012, he quietly brought a new method to the world of motorcycles that changed everything. He started to use T-spline modeling, a tool that made it easy to make shapes that are smooth and curved. It only took 15 hours to do what used to take over 40 hours. And that method was very important when he used Autodesk to build an electric bike. Soon, other stores used the same method, though many of them didn't know where it came from or give credit. Then in 2015, Paul did something that even his team found strange. He came up with a way to make motorbike frames stronger but lighter. It changed the way they built customs in a big way. He didn't end there. He learned how to write G-code on his own. G-code is a computer language for CNC machines. Before, he was just the person who planned the bike. He can now also run the tools. He went from being an artist to a machinist and worked on both the artistic and technical parts of the build. Things didn't get bad between Paul Teutul Sr. and his son all of a sudden. It began in secret in 2007, when Sr. gave Jr. a 20% share of their business, but kept all the power for himself. It looked like a fair setup at first. The business is run by father. Son brings the style. The balance started to tip, though, as Jr.'s ideas got more attention and fame. No longer were people admiring Sr.'s old-fashioned work. They were talking about the crazy thoughts Jr. had. And the man who built Orange County helicopters from scratch didn't like that. There was jealousy going on behind the scenes. The Sr.'s grip got tighter. It set off a spark every time Jr. was late or did his work in his own way. It got tougher to put out as it burned longer. The shop was a war zone by 2008. There were often fights between the father and son. They happened every day. It was mostly about being in charge. Jr. wanted to be able to make things. Sr. wanted people to obey. It was a battle of worlds. Spirit of creativity versus strict control. They got some of it on American Chopper, but not the worst of it. Sr. became more angry when the lights went out. Not just with Kid. Jason, a creator, once broke something he had made. When Sr. went on one of his rants, everyone in the store was careful. Mikey, the younger brother who is funny and keeps the peace, couldn't escape the emotional damage. He looked broken, like being yelled at for years had finally worn him down. Then there was the blow-up. September 2008. Sr. lost it when Jr. was late again. That which should have been a warning turned into a fight. In front of everyone on the crew. I want to be with my dad, but getting out of that bad relationship helped me grow mentally, emotionally, and in every other way. I felt like I was free from my dad. After that, I went my own way. To defend himself, Jr. said that he always got the job done, but Sr. wouldn't listen. Jr. answered. He said that OCC would not work without him. That was it. When Jr. got so angry that he couldn't think straight, he threw a chair and then a trash can across the office. He slammed a door and stormed out. Jr. went after him and fired him right then. The time they threw chairs, they broke more than just furniture. It broke up what little work relationship they had left. After many years, it would become a joke. At the time, though, it was a mess. After the shots were fired, there was chaos. The group was split up. Some people backed Jr. Others were afraid of Sr.'s anger, so they kept quiet. People started to worry. If the person who designed their bikes died, would the bikes still be magical? The network even went crazy. Jr. got a warning from TLC because he had broken his contract by leaving the show. He came back as a worker for a short time, but it didn't last. He was done for good by April 2009. Jr. went even further. He wanted Jr. to have no part in the business at all, so he moved to buy his 20% share. Sr. sued Jr. when Jr. wouldn't sell. The mess with the law wasn't just about money. It had to do with power. Sr. wanted to be in charge again. He said he had the right to pay $500,000 to get Jr.'s shares back. After that, he filed the case and asked for another $1 million in damages. That's right, he put his own company on both sides of the case with Orange County helicopters. It was an evil move meant to get Jr. out of there for good. Jr. wouldn't give up, though. One badly written part of the contract caused all the trouble. It said that Sr. could buy Jr.'s shares at fair market value, but it didn't explain how to figure out what that meant. That unclear language would be used against you in court. In 2010, when the case went to the New York Supreme Court, the first decision went in Sr.'s favor. The judge agreed that the buyout clause was legal and asked a third party to figure out how much the shares were worth. Jr. seemed to be done. They sat next to each other in court. They're not even looking at each other. But Jr. made a case. Things changed in December. The appeal court changed the decision. They said it was impossible to apply the clause because it wasn't clear enough. That meant Jr. kept his 20% share in OCC and Sr. couldn't kick him out. It was a huge gain in court, and for me personally as well. The son that everyone thought was broken was still there. His dad couldn't get rid of him. You know, my dad and I don't fight all the time. That's what I'll say. Do I mean, are we going to hang out? Please don't think that we are hanging out. Things aren't terrible, but they could be better. That's fine. You know, these things take time sometimes. Jr. still couldn't make bikes right away. He couldn't work for anyone else for a year. That meant that no motorcycles would be made until 2010. He turned around. He began designing things, like a dog park and a new look for Coleman's Camping Grill. He kept going even though it was one of the worst times of his life. He and his wife changed a room in their house into an office, hired a young man to do computer work, and started Hall Jr. Designs in April 2010, right next door to OCC. As Paul Jr.'s one-year deal with Orange County Choppers came to an end, he did something that no one saw coming. He did not just open his own bike shop. Instead, he started a full-on mutiny. Vinny DiMartino, Joe Pugliafico, Nub Collard, and even his own brother Mikey, who had been very important to OCC, quit and followed him. Cody Connolly quickly joined as well. It wasn't just a change in business. It was a mass departure that made Paul Sr. feel terrible and very angry. The Discovery Channel didn't wait around for anything. They used the backlash to make reality TV gold by starting a new show called Senior vs. Junior. Each week, a father and son competed in a battle that blurred the line between family and ratings. It wasn't new that Paul Sr. and Jr. were angry with each other, but this show made it public. It started airing in August 2010, and each show made things worse. Paul Jr. wasn't sure if they should put their family drama on national TV, but Paul Sr. was all for it. The shop fights were meant to be dramatic, and people watching were told to pick a side. One critic was right when they said it was tantrum TV. The bikes were less important than the emotional damage. Now, this wasn't just for fun anymore. This was real pain that was cooked up for everyone to enjoy. People still couldn't turn away. Something strange happened in the middle of all this chaos. Paul Jr. met Rachel Biester while filming an episode. It all came together when she showed up in a yellow outfit as the McCuff girl. It went from being something on TV to something more serious. A lot of cases were being filed, and the Teutul name was being used in many different ways. Rachel gave Paul Jr. something solid to chew on. She ran her own business and had her own job, and she quickly became the calm in his storm. Through her, Paul found balance and, in the end, a stronger faith that would change his whole life. Their August 2010 wedding was supposed to be the start of a new life together. It was big and beautiful, and TLC's Cake Boss made a 6-tier cake for the event. But everyone saw that one chair was empty. Paul Sr. did not show up. He was asked to come, but the cases and bad feelings were still too fresh. On one of the most important days of his life, his father wasn't there. This hurt a lot. There were more than 100 people, but it still felt like something or someone was missing. That absence wasn't just for one person. It was a sign of how far apart they got from each other. Even though years had passed, the cuts didn't get better quickly. Then, in 2015, Paul Jr. had his own child. He and Rachel had a hard time getting pregnant. They tried for almost 2 years in New York, and it finally happened during a short trip to Nashville. Says Hudson's birth changed the way Paul Jr. saw everything, even his own father. What he had lost in all the years of silence and courtrooms became clear to him when he held his son. He started to understand what it meant to be a dad for the first time and how hard it must have been for his own dad to see him go. Somewhere between the drama in court and the chaos on TV, Paul Jr. went through a quiet change. He began to think about things more seriously, especially his faith. He said he wasn't happy with how he was living in an interview. He wasn't even with Rachel. When she went on a powerful spiritual vacation, things changed. They made a brave choice. No getting close until marriage. They both cared about it, even though it wasn't easy. Eventually, he asked that their faith stay with them through marriage and become a guiding force in Paul Jr.'s life. He even started talking about it in public, sharing his story to help others find their own way through hard times. Over time, his faith gave him the strength to look back and talk to the man he had been afraid to talk to before. For Hudson, as well as himself, when he looked at his son, he knew what it would cost him to keep quiet. That's when the real healing started. There was more to the fights between Paul Teutul Sr. and Paul Jr. than just bikes. They were personal, angry, and full of strong feelings. What began as a family business turned into one of the ugliest fights reality TV had ever seen. Not only did millions of people watch as custom bikes were built, but they also saw a father and son fight with each wrench turn. They had their biggest fight in 2011 when both guys competed in a build-up show that showed how different they had become. Senior went with his usual rough and tough style, while Junior built a bike that looked like the P-51 Mustang fighter plane. Beautiful, unique, and full of life. That bike talked. It wasn't just moving. It was clear that Junior wasn't just making tools. He was also making points, and this kept happening. From 2010 to 2016, they competed against each other several times. Paul Jr. won 5 of those 7 times, showing that he wasn't just a kid working for his dad. He had his own power. Junior didn't just start a business after he left Orange County Choppers in 2009. He made a huge country. Most people thought he'd go away since he was banned from working for a year. He switched gears and worked with Coleman to make a grill. This change kept his business going during a tough market. It led to more deals after that one. He began selling things, making dog toys, and even constructing a public dog park. His name did better than his dad's by 2012. His line of clothes made more money. People were using his bikes in big business efforts. He worked with big companies like Blizzard and Paramount. He was no longer just making bikes. He was creating for some of the biggest names in show business and making a lot of money. But even the hottest fights can end. Helen Teutul died in December 2011, and she was Paul Jr.'s grandmother and Paul Sr.'s mother. It was one of the most honest times the show had ever shown. Jr. called his dad on the phone. They talked for almost 2 years before. It wasn't a long talk. Some easy words were said. "She really cared about you. I'm sorry about your loss." Sr. didn't know what to say on the other end. You could hear something change in his voice as he said he wished it had been in person. There was sadness and maybe even sorrow behind the anger. It wasn't a miracle, but that moment was real. When Paul Teutul Sr. and Paul Teutul Jr. got back together in 2018, it wasn't an emotional family success. It was a business move, planned and pushed by TV makers who want to make money off of old dramas. They hadn't talked to each other in almost 10 years. After their very public fight in 2009, which finished with Sr. firing his son from Orange County Choppers, there was a long period of silence. Discovery Channel didn't want to heal when they suggested a meeting. Fixed a broken motorbike, not a family that was broken. They picked the helicopter that was themed after the Yankees and was built in 2005. It had been sold and then destroyed for some reason. Some people even said it might have been broken to get insurance money. The network had every reason to bring them back together after that mess. It was tense behind the scenes. They each had their own shooting schedules, strict rules, and even backup plans in case things got bad between them. Junior tried to stay calm. They said they were a little older and smarter. But everyone knew this wasn't going to be a warm hug reunion. After 2 years, the last ride, a 2-hour special that was supposed to end everything, came around. It made things worse instead. It all began with good intentions. ABC Supply ordered a patriotic bike to stand for family and honor. But it was clear from the start that nothing had changed. Like in the past, Sr. didn't care about what his son had to say. People on the crew could feel the stress, and in the background, the original OCC shop was being torn down. It had powerful moments that didn't last long. In the end, Junior said that the only time he felt good was when he worked quietly next to his dad. They were just building like they did before, without cameras in their faces. But that didn't happen very often. When the bike was done, he told her straight out that he hadn't wanted to do it. He said it wasn't good for our trust. Fans were very angry. As people spoke out against Sr.'s cold behavior, hashtags like Respect Paul Jr. became popular. The commercials say they're close, but they're not. Not at all. As of 2025, their lives are very different from each other. They only talk when they have to buy contracts for production. They worked on a few bikes together from 2018 to 2023. But show insiders say it was all for the cameras. Junior said in a podcast not long ago that he and his dad haven't eaten together at Christmas in over 15 years. Not even after his son was born. It's also split between them. Sr. is still in charge of Orange County Choppers. Junior turned Paul Jr. Designs into a $14 million brand with clothing lines and licensing deals. There is no way that either man wants to go back to working together, which seems to be the case between them both. At the moment, they're in the same spotlight, but not the same world. Junior is now ready to talk. He said in February 2025 that a new memoir called Given the Opportunity would be out in October. But this story won't be polished enough for TV. Reporters on the inside say it will be raw and brutally honest. It's likely to show a lot of things that were left out of American Chopper, like a fight in 2008 that almost got physical. His first book was about his job and his faith. This new book is about his father's struggles with alcoholism and the long-lasting harm it caused to their family. Junior told everyone that he is no longer lying. He thinks that telling others about it might help people who have been through similar family problems.